House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Republican of California, in focus now. Look, I hadn't seen that clip. It is hard to believe that people in this administration not only don't want to do their jobs, but congressmen, don't they know what their jobs are?
They do not, because anybody that had Econ 101 understands supply and demand. If you have greater supply of something, the price will go down. What we watched from the very first day of this presidency was to go after the supply of American-made energy, stopping the XL pipeline, stopping leases. Just in the last month, he stopped leases in Alaska and the Gulf of Mexico. So no, the price of gasoline is not going to go down, it's going to go up. But what effects does that cause? It creates inflation, especially for the goods that are being transferred. And oil goes into more than just your tank of gas. It goes into the buttons in your shirt, the making of your phone, everything that we do. So and what did he just announce in the last week or so? He was happy that the price of gasoline was up because he thinks people can go buy electric cars. But now we look at Moody's Analytics just last May. It is now costing families $311 more per month. That's costing people a new car payment without getting the car. And what else did he do? Remember that it wasn't just Republicans who warned him about that $2 trillion wasteful dollars he wanted to spend that passed by Democrats only. It was Larry Summers, Obama's Treasury Secretary, Steve Ratner. Now you have Treasury Secretary Yellen actually apologizing, saying she was wrong. But what did that do? It paid people to stay home, which hurt the supply chain, made businesses have to pay more for people to come to work. And then what else did they do in the administration? They passed some of the most regulations in the shortest time period, where businesses just came out of a pandemic and having inflation, again, increased inflation by more than 11%. They are the cause of this. They have what created this. And now they're trying to spin it. It's somebody else's problem, but they have no idea or plan how to get out of it.
Two quick questions. First of all, Secretary Yellen has a lot to apologize for. I mean, after those comments about how if black women can't get abortions, we actually hurt the economy. She has a lot. I don't care about her, though. I don't care what she says, because she's another one who seems not to know what her responsibility is. When the president, Congressman, says he's going to tap now the reserves for diesel, you know, diesel, all those trucks that bring us all the things that you listed that we can't live without, like food, what does that do?
It weakens America. Think about it. This is our reserves in case we got in trouble. We can actually create more diesel. We can create more natural gas. It not only harms America, it harms the world by not being safe. Because what happened after this action that he took? He emboldened Putin, because Putin got more money to put into his own war. It destabilized Europe to have to rely on Putin instead of America. If America has more jobs, America energy independent, America supplying our allies with natural gas. And also think of this, Harris. American natural gas is 41% cleaner than Russian natural gas. So the environment would be safer if America was able to produce it. And then what did he do in the Middle East? Why we started to have peace in the Middle East with the Abraham Accords? He pivoted and went back to Iran, upsetting Saudi Arabia and others. He has done every decision wrong in the process of going. And to use our reserves now for in the future, why doesn't he create more supply to make the price go down? That would be the answer.
Well, and we did get answers from you, so that we know that there are answers out there. I'm just wondering if the president is willing to listen to you. Real quickly, the president is set to meet virtually with infant formula manufacturers today as that crisis is continuing to go on. A Forbes article highlights the challenges for smaller companies to make baby formula, pointing to one company that took 5 years to get their startup off the ground. Quote, "The high barriers to entry illustrate why there are so few new baby formula makers and why the United States will continue to be vulnerable to shortages. Is there an opportunity to kill several birds with one stone with some good leadership here? And what would that look like?"
Well, the first thing was he should have taken leadership a year ago when we warned him about this. They did this action with every simple problem we see going forward. Instead of tackling the problem, they push it off till it becomes too great and blame somebody else. If they would lower regulation, have a meeting with their FDA, put hands on. Why aren't they sitting in that plant months ago? What needs to be corrected today to make this safe, to be able to produce it?
Okay.
Why wouldn't they work over the weekend? Why wouldn't they get this done?
Wow, I took notes on that. I mean, those are actionable. Have a meeting with the FDA. Look, he's already met virtually with the manufacturers. I don't even know what that was like, because that turned out to be a phone call, you know, we got a few notes on. But what you're talking about are some actionable actions. I would love for them to meet with the FDA, because I still have questions about what we do next. All right, Congressman, so glad to have you. We've got a lot to get to. Hillary Clinton's campaign attorney is walking away free today, but his trial dropped some critical information about what Clinton and her operatives were doing behind the scenes to damage then-candidate Donald Trump. Republicans on Capitol Hill are fuming after the not guilty verdict came down for Michael Sussman, that attorney who was charged with lying to the FBI. Prosecutors from Special Counsel John Durham's office contend that Sussman misrepresented himself during a meeting with the FBI's counsel in 2016 in hopes of orchestrating perhaps a little October surprise against president rival Donald Trump. House Judiciary Republicans tweeted this: "The swamp always protects its own." Senator Ron Johnson, "Further proof there are separate systems of justice in America." And this from Senator Marsha Blackburn: "Today's verdict, while deeply disappointing, is not the end." Minutes before the verdict was handed down, Republican Jim Jordan joined the Focus. Watch.
The big takeaway here was what we learned a few days back when we learned that Secretary Clinton told Sussman to take information, false information to the press that was also then taken to the FBI. I think that is huge, and so much so that the former Attorney General called it seditious.
Your reaction to that?
Yes, the one thing, despite what the verdict is, the one thing we did learn, that the Clinton campaign coordinated, pushed this false narrative out there. But it goes further than just Hillary Clinton. Think about it. This goes to Jake Sullivan, that is now in the Biden administration as a national security advisor. Why isn't he being removed from that position now that we have all this information?
That's a great question. All right, we'll move on. The House January 6th committee will begin its series of 6 hearings next week. Congressman McCarthy, yourself obviously, Congressman Jordan, and 3 of your colleagues have so far refused to comply with subpoenas to testify. There has been an argument that there's risk being held in contempt of Congress if you don't do so. The minority leader, yourself, and Mr. Jordan accusing Democrats of weaponizing the government to attack Republicans by cherry-picking information and selectively leaking it to the press as the committee works behind closed doors. And your take?
Look, my position has not changed on this committee. It's not valid because Republicans were not allowed to appoint anybody. This is purely Pelosi appointed. First thing they said was Pelosi was off limits to know what she did about the National Guard. We're sitting with the highest inflation, gas prices rising more than 50 cents, people struggling to pay their rent, baby formula not being made, a border that's unsecure. Fentanyl is now being the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45, crime within our streets, and this is what the Democrats have planned, just to go after their political adversaries. This is what's wrong with Democrat-controlled one-party rule in Washington.
I want to just quickly ask you about the Pelosi-appointed committee, as you put it. Was there ever an opportunity to take another look at that as we went on? I mean, even the public, when you polled them, people wanted this to look more like a 9/11 type situation, you know, where everybody had a voice in there. Is there room for that now? My mom used to say, never too late to do something great. But this needs to be effective for the country to see what happened. Everybody would want to participate in that, I would think. Is it too late?
You would think so. Well, Pelosi played politics for 7 months. Remember, Republicans and myself came out right after January asking for that type of situation. She said no. Remember what Adam Schiff just did? He put an email out before I even received my subpoena, fundraising off the idea that they're going to subpoena Republicans. This is purely political. Why would Nancy Pelosi, never in the history of Congress, not allow the minority to appoint their own people? It's devised, and why would they pick it and kind of write out the deadline? The Senate already had a bipartisan committee on both sides look at it and put out a report. Why was the Capitol so unprepared that day? Why were the police officers not trained as well? Why were the riot gear locked in a bus down the street? Why wasn't the warning given to members themselves? All these different things. What has changed to make sure that Capitol will be more prepared so nothing like this could ever happen again?
Yeah. All great questions. I'm so glad you were in focus today. Congressman, thank you.